But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne, and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in-store, and exclusive access to sold-out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job has just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Hey there! Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower-than-low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Yeah! You're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's the podcast where we hear from artists about the stuff we don't usually get to know about. What their lives are like between tours and making records. How they've been able to get by in a world where it's probably hardest right now for independent artists than it's ever been. You know, it's more of a meandering of a career, right? I think I can say that without being offensive because everyone knows it. It's not easy to be an artist. I'm lucky I've had artists in my life growing up where I've seen them have disciplines and seen what they do and the anxieties and the celebration that comes from it. It's something I've always been interested in, and 101 Part-Time Jobs is where we get to hear from all kinds of artists about exactly that. Recently, we've been having some seriously influential guests on Kurt Vile was the other day, Gavin Rossdale from Bush, Frank Carter from Gallows, and now the hugely successful Rattlesnakes. And on today's episode, we got Benny Horowitz from the Gaslight Anthem. I went to see the Gaslight Anthem when they first played London at the university up by Euston, and that same night I met some people for the first time who have gone on to become my closest friends, and music does that, doesn't it? So the Gaslight Anthem will always have this big special place in my heart, and their new album History Books is a real ripper. This song, Playing Beneath This Autumn, is probably my favourite on the record. And the last track, A Lifetime of Preludes, has a really good drumming part on it, especially from Benny. Been really enjoying it. The Gaslight Anthem, they're a legacy and they're a now band, which I think is pretty special. I hope you enjoy this episode with Benny. Raw, unedited. It's Christmas time, it's festive period. Maybe you need an hour to get away from the house, to walk away from the home and get some space to yourself. Hopefully this hour can give you some company in that. And thank you for listening. If you enjoy this episode or enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe and leave a rating or a review. That stuff helps me massively. Shout out to 2000 Trees, who next year the Gaslight Anthem are headlining. They've just won the award for the best medium festival in the UK for the second year running. That's pretty good, isn't it? Making it 3 wins in the last 4 years. If there's a festival you want to go to next year in the UK, 2000 Trees are the one. The Gaslight Anthem are headlining on the Thursday night. You can get day tickets for just 65 quid, meaning you can catch Manchester Orchestra, Kids in Glass Houses, Hot Mulligan, Better Lovers, The Pale White, and loads more still to be announced. And not only that though, 2000 Trees offers evening tickets, so you can get into the festival from 6 p.m, means you can catch the biggest bands of the day, including the Gaslight Anthem's headlining slot, just for 36 quid. That's cheaper than a lot of headline shows for a lot of those bands. 2000 Trees got such a special feeling. I always come away from it with a full heart. And if you want to go for the weekend tickets are also available, and until the end of December you can get them for 30% off. Loads of bands: Manchester Orchestra, Damn, Creeper, Boston Manor, Cleopatra, The Excerts, The Mysterines, and tons more. Officially one of the UK's best festivals. Totally independent. All the vendors there are independent. It's a good feeling. Grab a 3-day ticket now at 2000trees.co.uk/tickets. Okay, before we get into this chat, I've got Rebecca from Ampolo here. Ampolo is the first all-in-one app connecting a global community of musicians and bringing an all-in-one place to practice, record, and collaborate. Until now, practicing has been kind of lonely. There's been technical barriers. These are all things that Ampolo is working to make your life better for. Isn't that right, Rebecca? What's going on over there?
Interestingly, we've been having lots of conversations with students and teachers and universities and colleges, and there's this big push of people wanting to use it as part of their curriculum to accelerate learning and change the way that music is taught. You're able to talk to each other in real life within the same project. So forget about jumping back to WhatsApp and emails and things like that. I can watch back your performance and say, that bit was great, this bar needs a bit more practice. So we've been getting feedback that Ampolo is a total game changer for music education, and it's so much easier using this than using multiple apps and jumping around to communicate with each other. So it's a really exciting space.
Ampolo, get on it sooner than later. Right then, here we go. It's the Senor and the Queen, aka Benny Horowitz, and myself, here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. 101 Part-Time Jobs. It's the kind of things that keeps me awake at night. I think there's been about 3 times in my life I've very nearly died. And that's the stuff that keeps me up at night.
Well, that means you got 4 left.
For real. And I actually think now it actually gives you like a better life now, because now you kind of got more value on it.
Now, I think it's important to, like, if people have found me morbid in the past for considering these things all the time, but I think it's a system for being grateful every day, is recognizing how many times you could have died, should have died, had very high variables and this and that. And if you're waking up, just walking and talking, like you're a step above a lot.
That's it. I mean, one of our friends died from a brain aneurysm when we were 17, just on his doorstep outside. And,
wow.
It's such that's what a wild age, isn't it? I look back and I think, wow, like our friends all did really well to get through that, and kind of be level-headed and communicate with each other. And it is like that happens. That just happens for no reason.
Yeah, no reason. Yeah, and once that's been a great part about I don't enjoy. I turned 43 recently, just like a week ago, and
happy birthday!
Thank you.
What do you do for it?
Oh, very little. My birthday is I have children, and my birthday is a day after Halloween and very near my son's birthday. So like, I don't really get one anymore. It's just kind of, but my wife surprised me with a float tank.
Whoa.
Have you ever done these things? These deprivation tanks?
So that's when you kind of plunge yourself into darkness and pull the lid over and stay there for an hour.
That's right. I was opposed to the lid one because I'm a little claustrophobic and did not like the idea of something closing in on me and me not having the power there. But it was more of like a room, like a little small room with this tank. So it's a little more, not nearly as claustrophobic, and it's filled with salt water.
Yeah.
Like Epsom salt. So you float like the Dead Sea.
Yeah.
And then you deprive like the sound and stuff like that, and your body kind of floats. It was funky.
How into that are you? Are you someone who thinks about what you put into your body, and specifically the way that what you put in is the kind of the stuff that comes out, literally and spiritually?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's something I don't think a lot of people know about me because I'm not too outspoken about it. But I am a 30 plus year vegetarian, strict vegetarian. I don't wear or use any animal products. I very, very seriously limit my intake of medicines and pills. And I try to go a holistic and food-based approach to almost everything, at least at first. Mm-hmm. I also barely use soap and shampoo and conditioner. I use one just dope natural product that just takes care of your whole body, because I truly think that shit is not good for you
it can't be. I just asked Kurt Vile about his hair care routine, and I think I've got some hot exclusive there, I'm telling you.
Listen, I talked to my people have their little things. Hair care is one of them. Vanity is a powerful drug. People will do things to hurt themselves and others to look awesome, and that's why I'm trying to be I think for my age, my wife tells me I got decent skin, it's staying together, decent health, so it's I think at this point in my life, I don't find any use in telling people or starting a TikTok about my routines or something. I would just people to go wow, that's a 2-hour-long Gaslight set and you're getting old. How do you make that happen? You
got that. You've got this. I'm lucky enough to get it every now and then when people say you're a smiley person, and it's just the kind of, I don't know any other way. I think you're the same.
I am. I generally I don't know. I think that's why stuff like this is just kind of it's always been fun for me. I like talking to people. I like getting to know people. People kind of fascinate me, and I do think if I went the straight route, I would have wound up in some form of sociology or anthropology, because humans and groups of humans doing the things they do and why they do the things they do is no, it's just a natural fascination, and I do think it's the core of empathy, if you can translate that to the idea that you can connect with any other situation, understand why it's happening, what maybe happened to allow that to happen or make it happen, and how you can improve. I find it functional too, and humane to figure these things out. You
go with the flow, and I'm speaking a lot about jobs and making your own jobs and working for other people and all the kind of psychology I suppose that goes into that, or more really the sociological approach, and something I think about all the time. And I think it's why I'm still so have the impetus to ask people about why they do it, what they do, and how they do it, and how they organize themselves, is because I always had such a hard time trying to fit into someone else's idea of work. And I like, the older I get, I've just got into my 30s. I feel like I've known you, well, one-sided. I've known you since I was 16 when you first played in London. I feel like we've grown up together. And that's funny. Yeah. And I've just kind of realized, fuck, I'm just going to go with the flow. Everyone's good at something. You know, everyone has their thing. And if you can find it sooner or later and lean into that, I guess what I'm really talking about is like the flow theory, everything flows kind of thing. Because then you don't start holding things and you don't start building up hate and all the bad stuff.
And I think there's some use in the idea too that, like, I don't know, maybe not everybody's great at everything. Or, you know what I mean? Like, just take that fucking pressure off things. Like that's where sometimes I almost wish I was built to be a little less of an ambitious person, because I'm not like happy with that, but I'm a little jealous of people who are. You know what I mean?
Happy with being unambitious.
I have this like natural inclination to like strive for more, go to the next thing, and I have a very natural impatience and restlessness that doesn't kind of allow me to like stay happy in one place for long. I don't know if I can change that about myself. I think it's just the recognition of it first is the step, and trying to know that. But I do have like a natural jealousy for some people I know who are like, nah, this is what I do. It's mellow. I'm happy. Like, things are secure, and like, I don't want anything more than this. And I think that's a great place to be. And I think some people confuse like actually like peace with a lack of ambition. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to just be okay with what you're doing. Good for you. If you can get to that point, you're in a pretty good state, you know? Like, and it
right now is a really messed up time. I think
there's that. Yeah. And then, you know, there's just this pressure. We, you know, both of us specifically are raised in like wild free market capitalistic kind of societies, you know, probably the two biggest ones in the world. And you know, to try to separate yourself from that machine while you're inside of that machine is a tough feat.
I read this. I just started a couple of years ago. I got a subscription to Private Eye magazine.
Ooh, and what's that? It sounds fun.
It's a left-wing newspaper. Okay. But it's a magazine. It's a left-wing magazine that can only, you know, they'll get in trouble if they do incorrect facts.
I heard an interview with the editor of that on the Jon Stewart podcast.
Ian Hislop.
Talking about the media. Yeah, very interesting guy. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And it's funny. So the first half is news stories that are actual cop and paste. And here's an example. Croydon Borough, they have no money to give to the arts or to disabilities or to schooling, but they've just lent 5 million to these contractors who are building a block of flats. 5 years later, 90% of those flats they're empty. They're not being, because it's just money. So that is like the cut and paste. And then the second half is just hilarious, like jokes and satire. And I love, and so that's the way my brain works now. And I feel like it's been really helpful because now, you know, I know more than I've ever done, but also I just I'm so impressionable that anything I read, I'm like, cool, I understand that. I see through that lens. So I see everything as fucking comedy because it is. It's a comedy of errors.
Yeah, there's definitely that way. I mean, how can you, like, if you take that really direct, you know, macro approach to life and you start unfolding it layer by layer like that, like, it's a fucking miserable task in a lot of ways. And you see so many dreadful things that it's hard to stay hopeful. So I think, I do think that a sense of humor is extremely helpful, you know, like the sense of humor where you just kind of have your hands up. You know, you're just like, I don't fucking know. Like, sure, this person's capable of anything. I don't know. Anything could happen to me. Let's go for the fucking ride. And it's kind of funny, you know, and I'm with you on that. Like, I do think there's a use to finding comedy in everything. I have gotten in trouble in the history of my life in finding comedy a little too soon.
Same. Same. Yeah.
But, you know,
yeah. Does that change being a father?
That's what happens when you meddle with the dark arts.
As a father, you have a family. You have a family to protect. You're working together. You're a team. Is there the temptation to stay in that bubble and be like, look, we can't really change something that's happening the other side of the world. What we can change is us and our actions and the way we respond to things. And I'm going to look after you, whether it's your partner, your kids, yourself. You got to look after each other.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting balance to strike. And it is easy to get really complacent, I guess, to everything that is happening outside your bubble. And I can see it, I not only see it in the people around me, but I can understand the push and pull of it, because you do reshape your priorities in the way that, when I was in my early 20s and something happened in the world, I couldn't sit on the goddamn couch allowing this to happen without my voice being heard or without making some kind of statement towards this, and that felt at the time, and I think I was probably right, because revolutions are a young people's game in a lot of ways, that was the best way for me to get into it. And now, something happens and I do wonder, am I better off reading the news for 10 hours a day and putting myself in a generally miserable state, which is obviously going to affect my whole family, or leave in some either altruistic or violent manner to approach these things head on?
Leave the family house and then I leave and then I'm on the front lines fighting somebody, or I'm on a rescue mission somewhere else trying to save people, and then my family's generally left behind. And put yourself
when
in
do
danger.
You make that decision when it's critical enough that you have to do that? I think that's a bizarre balance, and when I see these conflicts around the world and the idea that all these people, you see just these legions and legions of young men often just shot out from all these different countries going to do the dues of these people. And now I don't see some awful fucking person with blood tinged teeth. I see someone who was probably in a shitty fucking situation and made some shitty fucking decision for their family, and they'd rather be home. More often than not, I think those people who are fighting those wars and doing that shit want to be fucking home. You know what I mean? And they'd rather just be living a mundane day-to-day life if they were given the choice. Just like me. So I guess and I live in the States and I make a living wage and I have a nice situation for my family. And for someone like me, there is this constant bout of guilt, tinged with gratefulness, my overwhelming.
It's pretty impossible to live right now in the Western world and not be guilty. I think guilt is, I think it's in all of us.
Yeah. And it should be, that's where I think there's a lot of danger in the no regrets crowd, it's you can think about no regrets,
No
I'm
regrets,
sorry.
yeah.
That's the joke of, when people get it tattooed wrong and they spell it wrong, no regrets.
That's funny. That's good.
But I do think there's a little danger in that, Tasmanian devil, eyes ahead, whatever the fuck happened doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It does matter. And I wish people recognize the matter and read history a little more and understood what is the end game of all this? I'm a fucking drummer in a rock and roll band who just enjoys history and reading and into nerdy shit. And it seems pretty fucking obvious, what the end game always is to this stuff. And the idea that we're not collectively taking a different path seems absolutely psychotic to me at this point. Just psychotic, hard to understand. You're
self-employed. You've been self-employed most of your life.
I mean, no. I've been at this, with the exception of any time that Gaslight's been full time from like, let's say 2010 to when we stopped, and maybe like now. No, like I've always had to work for other people. I was working for the job I quit to do Gaslight, was like it was a newspaper, and even when Gaslight was off all those years, I was working at Woodshops for other people and stuff.
What was that like? You give off a woodshop aura, which is as a compliment. Did you get into that? Well, I mean, making things with your hands, you can see how that. I mean, I can see how that's between playing in a band and especially like a drummer. You're holding sticks. It's like probably some deep psychological, subconscious stuff there that your art form is with fucking wood.
What are you going after here? My need to hold wood. My need to hold wood. It is, it's there.
Always holding
it's definitely
wood.
There. I love the feel. I love the smell, my friend.
Did you enjoy getting into that? I mean, were you ever going to like build drums? Was that ever a thing?
No. See, I'm like, it's kind of funny because I'm like simultaneously like a handy person, but not someone who really enjoys being handy. Like it's kind of a weird misconception about somebody who like kind of knows what they're doing, that they like to do it. Yeah. But when it's like Saturday and like, sure, there's like a board on my deck that needs to be fixed, I know exactly what I have to get. I know how to cut it. I know how to mill it down. I know how to make it fit perfect. I know just the screws I need. But you know what I'd rather be doing? I'd rather be like getting stoned, drinking a cup of coffee, doing a fucking crossword puzzle, and like staring at the squirrels in my backyard. Like that's what I'd rather be doing. So I have learned that about myself, that it was actually really good for me in a way that it was in a work context, because that is something I've just been so accustomed to since I'm a little kid, that like I need a work context. It's good for me. I like going to
someone
work.
else telling you what to do, some structure, a time
some
you gotta be there.
Some structure is really important for me. Yeah. And I've found like, being self-employed and, booking podcasts and being in a band and having this kind of, ease to your day if you choose to have it is it's hard for someone like me. I'm not a plugger like that. Mm-hmm. So I actually I'm grateful for it in hindsight. The fact that I wound up in a situation where I had to get paid to work. And I knew somebody who I could learn the trade from, and was in a place with people I knew, and learned a shit ton while making money, and
fun people to hang out
I really
with.
enjoy it.
You'd go for beers afterwards. You'd have that kind of connection that's like familiar or familial, maybe familiar.
Yeah, and and I tend to like. I guess I'm drawn towards like. I like having like groups of friends and groups of like people to hang out with, and other, but I hate like jockey shit. I hate drunk stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I really like, I got over going to bars when I was younger. I don't like very chesty male camaraderie kind of shit. Mm-hmm. Like it turns me off in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Who wouldn't?
Even though I love sports, was a strange counter in my life. But so like I love places like that where you're around other, they're eccentric people, like the people who are building furniture in Red Hook and Brooklyn and in the South Bronx, and are making their way in New York and are usually from other places. They're funky fries, man. They're cool people to sit in a room with all day. And I also, part of the reason Gaslight slowed down, in 14 was just like general burnout, and just.
Is that a creativity burnout as much as tour burnout?
I'd say yes and yes, like
just all of it.
Yeah, over it. So I did find like, the first guy I was working with at one of these wood shops was a really nice guy, but not a chatty Cathy. And you'd go into this shop and it would just be me and him working on something. And when you put, like a giant tabletop together, you sand it in a way that's like extremely slow and extremely time consuming, so you don't fuck it up essentially. And man, like putting on headphones and just doing that for like 8-10 hours, like just in this very meticulous kind of process, it really like, it was a very good feeling at the time, and it definitely filled something I needed filled. It was like a great, like, just take your brain to another place kind of situation, you know?
I think we need that. I think
I've
we need
learned
to
that
do
about
different
tour.
stuff.
Yeah, and tour, you know, and the older I get, one of the hardest things about tour for me is just like a general overstimulation. You know, I think that's like whatever mental neuroses I deal with, like I get overstimulated, hyperstimulated. I'm not the type of person who walks into a room and just stays in my own thing. I see everyone, I see everything, I see all the little details of everybody else's experience around me, and it can be quite exhausting, you know. And I think you know, and I find myself as I get older, when I have that off time on tour, to be by myself. That's like I've been doing more than often, you know. People are like, oh, we're going out to eat and we're doing this, and I'm like, shit, man, like what I actually want to do is watch this like HBO Max free channel in the hotel room and take a shower and tune out, you know. Like that's what I need to like do this these days, you know.
Doing nothing is awesome. I mean, even going to gigs, I've kind of stopped going to gigs. After lockdown, I was like, I'm going to go to every gig ever. And I did for a while. And now any more than 2. And what I've realized as well is I'm doing better work. I'm doing better with this show. I'm doing better for other shows I'm involved in. Just because I'm involved, I mean, like, it sounds like I'm very similar to you. You know, I find it really hard in a group, especially on tour, for example. If people go out for dinner, I know within myself that I need it, and maybe this is where the difference is, but that I feel like I need to go there because I don't want to miss anything. You know, I'm like a 10-year-old inside still. You know, like I really am the youngest. You know, which I am. You know, there's those traits that I'm like, I can identify and chart why I behave this way. Is because that's the way it's the way I've always acted that way. It's difficult.
Well, you asked earlier, like one of the biggest changes to having kids, and I think that's one of the biggest changes I truly enjoy, is like for some reason FOMO went away.
Great. Yeah.
It did. I don't know why. I just have such an easier time now being like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Like I don't know. I don't know if there's like a certain air that you get to like, because in your head you're like, it's like a psychological thing. It's like they know that I have a family at home. So they know that this is like my only time, and like it almost gives you psychologically, it like gives me a free pass. It's like I'm a dad now. Like I got my free pass, so I can do whatever the fuck I want, you know? And there is like I think I truly understand like youth is wasted on the young now as an adult. Like I don't think it's necessarily true, but like there is like just this giant fuck you to life, where I think the large majority of us like kind of figure out what to do after our bodies start declining. And it's sort of fucked up. You know what I mean? This is like weird and fucked up. Like how that happens.
How do you mean?
Like, cause I got it like kind of figured out now. And I look back on, and who doesn't look back when they're 43 and think about super dumb shit from like your teenage years and your 20s, and like how much better you could have handled so many situations and people and yourself and stuff like that. And then by the time you figure this all out, you know, you're just like changing diapers and stuck in a house, and like you can't even share it with anyone anymore. And you know, your knee hurts, so you're not even going out. And it's like, this is why the countries that actually listen to old people, I think, got something figured out. Like I think we need to get better in America. Like keep grandma and grandpa in your fucking basement and hang out with them every day. They know some shit, you know?
They know what's up.
Like, yeah.
That's why they don't have to talk so much. Less is more. You know, what they do say is actually fucking real.
That's right. Let me just watch. Let me just watch the world go around about me. I hope I get to be like an old man in a rocking chair, like watching a bunch of shit. Like, it sounds great.
Playing in bands, and you put on gigs as a teenager, you put on hardcore shows around New Jersey. Working out things by community Oh, we frozen there for a sec. Can you hear me? Oh, you good?
Yeah, you just fritzed. I think you're back now.
Yeah. Working out things by community, whether you're playing in a band, putting on gigs, and that's one way to learn to how to communicate with people, or even, you know, how not to communicate with people. I mean, being in a room and being like, oh, that part you just wrote that you're really excited about bringing into the room, I don't like it, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's one minute example of like these big thing, you know, what a learning curve, what a bout of continual lessons over a number of years.
Yeah, but that one sentence, like what you just said, has probably broken up thousands of bands, because it like it could have thrown the first wrench where one person was like, yo, fuck that dude, like that's fucked up. When you learn as an adult that yes, there is a time and a place, right? And yes, people are embarrassed when you call them out in front of a room of people. Maybe if you wait 90 minutes and do it outside together, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many ways. There's so many channels to not be a fucking dick.
Is that something you've learned, or did you have that? Did you have that when you were younger? Do you think, looking back on that time?
You know, it's a weird thing of going back, because I think one of my greatest skills and abilities in this entire game has been able to navigate difficult relationships. And that's not just for other people. I mean, it's even for myself. Like, if you want to be really close to me, there's going to be times it's going to be difficult. It's heavy. You know what I mean? I'm a lot, like, and I get that, you know, like, and if you let me in, you know, that's the thing. But a lot of it was because of, like, you know, the way I grew up, you know, difficult family dynamics, like, you know, parents with mental illness, like at least one. And, you know, so you learn to navigate that. And then, you know, you're doing shows and you're talking to bands. And I was always the young kid growing up, and like, you learn to navigate that. And that's where, you know, I don't know what the balance is between like living your own existence and just listening to other people. 'Cause like, I don't want my kids to like come up the way I came up, because there's a really high percentage of people who came up like me or had those variables that like are not sitting here talking like nicely to someone on a podcast. They're fucking dead, or their lives got fucked up in major ways. And these are people I was really close with. So I feel I'm lucky in so many ways that, you know, I wound up sitting here being able to talk about it. So I think that's been one of the greatest skills, though. And I think something that like people really need to be conscious of when you start bands and you start artistic relationships is like, there are other people, and like the things that the bands that excel always have one or two or a group of people who can be kind, or who can be managerial, who can kind of like, you know what I mean? Like there has to be someone like that. And just trust me now, if it's 4 douchebags in a room, it's not happening. Like it's not. You gotta, you're running something together, you know, like, and really when everybody has unified goals and are kind of looking in the same direction and looking out for each other's backs. I mean, that's like, rare. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
That's seriously rare. I mean, unified goals is a seriously rare thing. You know, I grew up in a ska punk band with 8 people, and we did some tours, and we were like 15, you know, we were borrowing cars and all of this. And
yeah.
I even, you know, I think now like even 2 people, even like a partnership, you know, that's anything. That's actually, that's magic. Like the odds, you know, the odds are against you.
And that, you know, and that's one of the great things about, like, you know, we'll talk about in the context of Gaslight, is we kind of like grew up in a lot of ways together now at this point, you know? And one of the great things with that is like, you know, when you just meet someone or you start dating or something, and trust me, this is a relationship like dating when you're in a band with someone, you know, you get to present like the best qualities of yourself, and then eventually the sheen goes away and something's going to happen. Everybody is somebody.
Day turns to
everybody's
night.
coming. everybody's coming with something, you know? And the cool thing is, like, I've known these guys long enough now. They watched me deal with, like, my mom dying, and they were there. They watched me meet my wife, marry my wife, have my family. They watched, like, you know, moving from here to here to here, and knew, like, the details of it. So when you know, like, the ins and outs of someone's life over the course of time, and someone say, like, just for instance, say I'm being a dick one day, you know, and I'm on tour. These guys have, like, the ability to go into their brains and go, like, wait, why is Benny acting like that? Oh, maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. He's good. We'll give him a pass. You know what I mean? This time. And sometimes knowing people's stories and knowing what they've been through and stuff allows you to have that, like, empathy, you know? And that's where, you know, at this point, as we're moving forward again, it feels, yeah, I know it might be cliche to say, but it feels a lot more like a brotherhood in that way, where it's like, it's familial, you know, in the way where, like, you know, you don't have to talk to a sibling every day to know you're close to them. Yeah. And it's kind of turned that way with, like, with my bandmates, you know?
Yeah. Did you, during the time off, you'd go months without talking to each other? Like, there was a time, were you chatting to each other much? Was there that kind of distance?
I mean, more, because you're not getting in a room together and you're not meeting up for practice. You're not making decisions. So, but I would say that as you get into adulthood, maintaining those, like, relationships is hard regardless. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like every day constantly on the ship, but I don't think I ever, like, proper lost touch with anyone. I know we were always checking in and, you know, like, I don't think I'd ever go more than, like, a couple weeks probably without talking to Bri. At all those times, you know, and then even like we're talking about with family, you know, like, all it takes for me to test Alex Levine is seeing one article about the New York Mets. Yeah. And then me and him are on a text for the next 10 minutes, and then we caught up a little bit, you know? So it's no, like, we never, like, grew that far apart and didn't know what each other were doing and stuff like that. It stayed, you know, like, as you get into your mid 30s, 40s, and you all have kids, like, you're not going to see each other all the time, and getting on the phone is tougher. All that stuff is tougher, but I think we maintained good adult relationships for that time.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
101 part-time jobs, 101 part-time jobs.
I got an older brother who's 7 years my elder, and he taught me everything I knew. You know, he got me into punk rock and skateboarding and just set me off on that path at a really young age. And we lost touch because he was doing his own thing. I think I was a bit gutted that he lost touch with me. I kind of thought, like, my best friend had, you know, like ghosted me or whatever. And so I think that followed me. And that, you know, this period of like 12 years. And just in the last year, you know, we just started, you know, we'd connect on different bands, different records. And like now, like there was a long period of time where there was this kind of almost like arrogance inside of me. I was like, no, I'm not going to call him. You know, I won't be the first to call. Yeah. And now I've just kind of let that go. And it just feels much better. You know, it's a whole trip. It's a whole journey, you know, but at the moment it's feeling good.
Yeah, I was just having that conversation with somebody the other day, how like at this point, I don't think forgiveness is a gift to other people. It's like a gift to yourself if you can truly do it, you know, because when you're walking around with that kind of weight and every time you think about someone or every time something makes you think of that person and your initial inclination is this like little well of resentment, this little thing like you just can't let go of, like and that's where like true forgiveness, not just like when you say it, but you actually mean it and you let something go. It's like, so like, it's like, it's like a relief, and if you can manage to do it, I really do think it's like a gift to yourself, not even the other person, You're
drinking the poison otherwise. And
kind of like, where does that end, Yeah.
Big time.
You just then,
hey, you've been having fun then. Mad. You've been having fun with history books. You've been having fun doing podcasts. You're back on the horse. Your diary's looking pretty. It's lit up like a Christmas tree. You got tours coming up. There's stuff going on. How does it all feel?
It's crazy, it's like, it's all so familiar, but then like new again, which is a kind of interesting juxtaposition to be in. But, the machine is rolling again. And that's like, that's part of the thing where when you're like first dusting it off and like getting the things, there's a lot. When you're touring a lot, with gear and logistics and people and all that stuff, at first it's like a clunky old machine that really needs like a tune-up.
It's the old apple press. You're making some homemade cider.
You're going to run into a couple problems and have to figure it out. We're also doing things in a semi-new world, like the last time we put out a record,
TikTok didn't exist.
Certainly not nearly as enslaved to like whatever digital media rollout like we just had to take part in, like I it's certainly nothing like I'm familiar with or know how to do myself. And
you're doing some walking face to camera mornings.
Yeah,
hey, what's up?
fans? Luckily I think for us, I think we're grandfathered in to a point enough that I don't think we totally have to play the game, and can kind of minimally play the game just to get information out.
You're an albums band. People will buy the albums.
Yeah, luckily, I think we're still in that category. We became a relevant band just before it all tipped over, so we can pull that off. But so I'm super happy. I'm super grateful. I really am. Like, I recognize the really like the unique variables that led back to this point and how many things could have gone so many different ways. And
was it kind of unexpected?
It was. Yeah. I mean, I think if you asked me a number of those years between, Get Her or even like the reunion shows till now, there would have been a couple times I would have told you no chance Gaslight's getting back together, based on like just my feeling and my, this is going on with this person. This is going on with this person. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't see it. And I got to be honest, like, I don't know if it was just the way certain people were talking or the way certain things felt. My intuition was leading to the fact that it could be close for some reason. Like I was like, this feels okay now. But I think that was part of what we discussed even when we stopped, is like when this feels right, when it actually feels right, when things aren't in the way and we can do it the way we want to do it, then let's try to do it. And so even though when Brian first gave me that call, kind of seeing where I was at and if, I wanted to kick the horse in the butt again, there was a little part of me that was like mentally kind of preparing a little for that moment, I guess, in some ways.
For the moment for it to work or for the moment for it to not work, like a full start?
The moment for it to be put on the table again.
Right.
Yeah. It just in that, like I said, over that time, you could ask me 1 month and I would have said 100% no. And you would ask me another. I said, but at that time when Brian called, it just was one of those times where it felt right. And my intuition was leaning that way. Nice. So when the question came in, it was an easy one to answer, which I think helped the whole thing, because Brian's query was met with instant excitability, like I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's go. Like, let's do the thing. Like,
from the outside, we've spoken once or maybe twice before. I know nothing about your relationship with each other. From the outside, I've always felt, and like, intuitively from the very start, from Sink or Swim really, is that I was like, Brian is the type of character, he is the quintessential New Jersey, young Springsteen kind of thing. You know, I knew back then, even though maybe I wouldn't have articulated that, but this guy is going to be carrying a lot of weight for being that guy. You know, he's going to have a lot of expectations put on him. His lyrics, he's always probably going to be challenging himself after writing some first, you know, right out the gate, amazing lyrics. You know, that is, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown type stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, over the years, like, I think if there's one thing that would have been a bit of a problem in the band early on was like, and that was something I had to get over personally. This had nothing to do with Brian. Was I had like an internal power struggle about things I wasn't willing to let go of, as far as like the way we presented ourselves. Like, let's say case in point was this. I remember one show years ago where, you know, I was really on this like Black Flag fucking, you know, I read Get in the Van 50 times, and this idea that like when you're in front of an audience, 2 people, 5 people, you fucking kill those people. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Whatever else is going on shuts off and you just fucking go. And like, and I'm a drummer, and like I can take this like physical raw energy and put it right into my instrument and just like, you know, get into it like that. And I remember a show we were opening a festival, I think in like Denmark or something, and the Foo Fighters were playing later that night. So in my head, I'm like, this is a very important show. If anyone from that camp is watching, you know, we got to do it. And like, for whatever reason, Brian, like, I think he's just having a bad morning, bad afternoon. Any number of fucking equations could have come into it. I was too aloof at that time to know or ask. And we got, I thought he had kind of a ho-hum show. He played okay. He played his parts fine. He sang well, like no problems there, but didn't really engage the crowd and didn't like do the thing. And I gave it to him after the show. I was pissed. And I was like, what the fuck, you know? And I kind of had this like, and you know, over the years, I realize now like how fucking stupid it was. And what you said is the most important lesson from that, which is like, I remember Brian telling me after, he's like, yo, what do you do when you have a bad day and you got to like go on stage? And I'm like, I just put my hair in front of my fucking face and I pound my drums and I sweat and I just like, I leave like without any fucking breath, like I just went to the gym or something. And it is like a crazy release. And he's like, you know, I gotta talk to people. He's like, do you ever have to be like, I don't even know if he said this, but the actual context is basically like, you know how hard it is to be like charming when you're sad? You know, like, do you know, like how
and charming
like,
is what he's known for, you know, that's like, that's his.
And, you know, it really clicked with me right then, which is like, this is a fucking person. And like you said, a person who has to carry a lot of weight, more than I do, is in this context, especially with the band, you know, like, I'm not judged for my thoughts. I'm not judged for my emotions. I'm not judged for the way I present myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, and he is. And, you know, when you recognize that, if you see like a machine on stage who's just giving the same show and going Milwaukee, yeah, like every fucking night, I'm sorry, they're human beings and it's disingenuous and they're being performers and it's performative and that's fine. Listen, like if you're an arena band and you're Taylor Swift, no one fucking wants to see you up there bummed. You know what I mean? Like you're a performer. This is what you do. You know what? I don't see Brian like that, and I don't see our band like that. And I gave up on that fact. I was like, you know what, man? Be your fucking self.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if some days somebody's seeing somebody who's having a hard time with life, then that's what you are that day. If you're feeling you're sitting on a cloud and you want to fucking rip that day and like talk a bunch and do that, like I'm with you. Like let's go on this ride together. Because, you know, like the performative thing is cool, but it's also a lot of I've seen it a lot, and you could, press play on a CD and get a fairly similar feeling than you do at the show.
Your relationship's
I like the fact
got to be the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's fun. I think this is where the punk rock side of me goes into rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is real.
Yeah.
You don't fucking like it? I don't know. Go to another show.
Guided by Voices.
There is
that's the message. That's the message that I get from Bob Pollard and Guided by Voices. Is like, if you don't like it, fine, but this is our rock and roll. This is it. I'm just going to write songs the rest of my life, a dozen a day. Some of them will make the record.
Right.
Not even all. That's I on my Friday night is going out on my bicycle to the show, having a beer, listening to Guided by Voices, an album that I haven't heard yet, because there's always one that I haven't heard.
Yeah, there's always something, right? Yeah.
And I feel like, what bands do you look to? What is there anyone you look to for that, or are you your own Northern Star in that context?
No, definitely not. I kind of view the music so critically that like listening back to old stuff is often, it takes a really, really long time for me to just like plainly enjoy it in any context.
Well, after
like,
a song's been released.
Yeah, it has to be like really far away from the idea that I could touch it and put my hands on it.
Right.
To like totally let it go and just like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's often why, and one of the reasons why I think Gaslight was so prolific, I guess, in our last time was because like, I think we have that kind of, all right, what's next? Because this is done. I don't know what we can do with this. I don't even know if it's good, but like, let's just keep going because the next thing will probably be better.
Hey, what's the last tune on History Books? Your drumming on that is a new thing for you. I feel like.
Oh, thanks.
It's cool.
On Prelude, yeah.
Really great
I appreciate
song.
That. Thanks. Yeah. But I do have a lot of like let's say, somewhere around like. I have a lot of records that connect me with moments and things like that. Like, so currently, like the album Beck Morning Phase is a really important album to me. And I'm really drawn to it when I'm dealing with something.
Microdosing. Sorry, bad time, bad joking.
I mean, it would be good for that. But yeah, like when I'm dealing with something and kind of in my own space and really need to like tune out and get away, and like for some reason that album's kind of become my soundtrack for that.
And you discovered that album when you were quite young?
No, that Beck record came out. That was the one that Kanye ran on stage for, saying that Beyonce deserved the Grammy.
No,
it was that record. I think
right.
So that was like 2010s or something when that came out. Yeah, this is like later. And it's super spacey, kind of California record. It just feels really good. It's not even about the lyrics. I don't connect with the lyrics on the record. It's about the feel. And then, I don't know. Like I always go back to when I'm touring a lot, I think I start to, my ear just goes away from like singer, songwriter, rock and roll kind of stuff. And I think that's when, like currently right now, if you saw my iTunes, everything at the top would essentially be like hip hop, soul, Motown, and then like hardcore. And I just went on Saturday night and saw one of my favorite all-time bands play, Botch.
Yeah. I mean, I've never really got into them, but they've been around, they've been.
Yeah.
I understand that people have a huge love for them.
Yeah, I haven't seen him since like the late 90s. I was losing my mind at that show. And next Saturday, they're doing a show with Cave In and Converge.
Yeah, which
is like, there's
awesome.
At one point in my life, all three of those bands I might have said was my favorite. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. But no, I mean, I'm still like obsessively consuming music. One of the cool things about having kids is, they're truly getting into music. And my son's favorite band is Iron Maiden. album. He listens all the time. He's like a genuine fan. We didn't push it on him. Just loves the art and the music. He could rip off like all their albums to you.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, because of that, I've been listening to a lot of Iron Maiden. You know, my kids love like the Misfits and the Ramones and the Beach Boys, and recently like the Police and Tom Petty.
Cool.
So it's a cool exercise of kind of going back to a lot of songs and being like, you know what, that song is fucking good. Like, so that's been a fun I have this massive playlist for them of probably like 100 songs of just like songs they like that we shuffle around. And there's some weird stuff on there. I mean, like Corey Hart, like I Wear Sunglasses at Night is on there. Like Wind of Change by the Scorpions wound up on there. Like there's some weird shit, but it's fun list. Yeah.
Good stuff. Have you heard End It from Baltimore?
Oh yeah, I have actually.
I really like them.
Yeah, they're good. That scene is so awesome right now. Like, you know, End It, and it was like Trapped Under Ice, and then Turnstile. Like something really cool popped off in Baltimore the last few years, which is, you know, as an old school hardcore, I think I've even said before that the digital age is going to ruin like, local music scenes, and the idea that like back in the day, a certain sound would permeate from a city because all the bands were playing together, and you could tell, be like, oh, that's that like Louisville sound, or that's that San Diego sound. And I thought the internet was going to totally kill that, but Baltimore kind of pulled it off this time. They kind of got a thing going on right now, which is cool. Philly's sort of part of it too, with the Baltimore Philly hardcore scene going on right now.
Not too really far away, are you? Baltimore's not too far away.
No, like Baltimore is 2.5 hour trip based on traffic. You know, I'm only 45 minutes from Philly, so
hell yeah,
that stuff is close for me.
Good stuff. Hey, Benny, I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been good to get to know you a bit better. I love this stuff.
Yeah, did we talk about anything you wanted to talk about? Or
yeah, we talked about you doing woodwork shop stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and also all of this stuff. And this sounds like a cop out. Everything we ever talk about is like it's brain work. You know, that's a job. You know, when I think about my relationship with my partner, you know. It sounds insulting. Definitely, it sounds insulting. That's a job. But my relationship to anything, my relationship to building a home, a DIY. It's like all this is work, and somehow work has become this for me anyway. It was this hugely negative word and hugely negative connotations. I'm really trying to like turn that around and be like, no, you work, you try, and you make a better life. You know, it's the breadcrumb trail, and every day should be a cool way to grow up and have that imagination that, you know, you had when you were a 10-year-old. Maybe you haven't had that imagination yet. You've got to give yourself the best opportunity.
Yeah. I love that. Now, with that question in mind, do you think you're going to hit the point when you achieve it, or you're just going to be doing brain work until the day you die?
Till the day I die. And I think that's what's going to give me that's my value in life. Mm-hmm. That's what I see value in.
I'm with you. Just keep going. To improve till the end. Fuck it, you know?
I want to try. Yeah, I was listening to that Matthew McConaughey audiobook. It's just got up for free on Spotify. So I jam it. And if you want to feel fucking cool, listen to Matthew McConaughey talk for fucking 8 hours. You'll feel cool after that.
He's vibey.
And he's got that story in high school where he used to try really hard, and, you know, he got that pickup truck, and it was a bit goofy, but, you know, he would try with, I mean, the way he said it is, it was very kind of nice and Dick-like. He was, you know, he would try to impress the girls,
but he was being a Texas high school douchebag. Yeah, basically,
exactly.
Yeah,
and in an innocuous kind of way. And like when he got the kind of fancy car and he stopped trying, he says, you know, that's when like stuff got boring. You know, I think you've got to, you know, I still wake up sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed, or, you know, I don't want to do this. And right now I'm putting off doing an intro to this fucking podcast, which is ridiculous. I'm just going to like for another episode, you know, and I'm like, I just got to do it. And then I'll feel good. Yeah. And then I'll go to it's just the same, you know, the hardest part about going to the gym is tying up your shoelaces, right?
That's right. That's right.
And then the rest
for
of
me,
it's
driving.
Sound.
But yeah.
For you, it's what?
Who for me, it's driving. Who do you have to do the intro for?
Baby Queen who if you'd look at her, you'd think something kind of major label for sure. Very like pink and, I'm sure at some point she's had that thing that teenage girls do where they put the shiny things on their teeth.
We should do that.
We should do. I was just thinking, why that'd be fucking cool, right? We start a trend.
There's your intro right there.
Talk
about that.
I've enjoyed going with the looseness and going. Yeah. It's taken me about 290 episodes to actually.
I know.
What do you like with that stuff?
Same now. You know what I like to do is I like to over prepare and not use it, which seems the best for me. Like when I first started interviewing people, it would be in like a context like this where we're like winding down the episode or something and you're kind of coming out of it. And then I'd see something on my page and be like, wait, one last thing. And it would totally fuck up the flow and it would be like this. And I realized like, it was a totally self-driven thing. I was like so impressed by my own question that I just had to get it in, even though it didn't help our conversation or the podcast at all. And it was very self-aggrandizing, I thought. And like, I've learned that if I talk to someone for an hour and it just flows and it's cool and I have 2 pages of unused notes, great.
That's fine.
The notes were there if you needed them.
Yeah.
But the other stuff is more important. Like you said, like, I'd rather just like go on a journey and all of a sudden an hour goes by and I'm like, oh, fuck it. That was fun.
Totally.
Then go through like, how did you get your guitar tone on this or that? So I'm with you on that. But that being said, especially these days and certain artists, like you gotta be semi-careful what you say. And not make sure you're in a certain kind of pocket. So
do you know, I am kind of thinking recently, I'm like, I am going to really upset someone one day, something that I think is an innocuous thing to say, or I think just doesn't matter. Do you know what? I'm ready for it, I think.
Yeah. Something happened to me with that. And I think it's important where, I've done a lot of podcasts and I think people, if they know me or if they've heard me talk, know that I'm generally an ally who's trying to do the right thing in a lot of ways. And I had an interview with Lauren from the Warriors, who I've known since we were kids, back in New Brunswick and stuff. And I hadn't known that Lauren was using different pronouns.
Yeah.
And during an interview, I misgendered Lauren like quite a few times and, was called out by somebody after it. But the difference was the person calling me out was like, hey, I don't think you were doing this on purpose.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on. I'm trying to inform you.
Yeah.
And I received it like, holy shit, didn't know. Of course I wouldn't have done that. Lauren chimed in and it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where track record helps. You know what I mean? Like, and just intent. You know what I mean? And I do think a lot of people hide behind like, a lot of people say accidental things, but intent is a thing. And I think, intentionally doing something or doing it truly by mistake. I think most people, if you take it on the chin and you say you learned from it and you say, I'm sorry, I think most people are pretty fucking chill.
Yeah. I think Gen Z has kind of taught us that.
How so?
Well, I just think the what I've been exposed to from that generation, I guess people who are maybe 15 years younger than me, there is that, oh, they're a they, not a he. There is an introduction or there's a, there's, I feel like from my experience, there's just there's more learning going on there.
I think so.
I think my generation has a lot of pride. And like, oh yeah, I knew that. Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. And my generation is just like still confused. I talk to people all the time, but even people who are like on the outside, they're allies, they're like saying the right thing, doing the right thing, but they don't know what the fuck is going on. I think that's truly what's going on in my generation.
Patience. I think that's the thing. And like you say, you can tell most of the time, you can tell intent, and exactly. More than anyone else you're doing something good or bad. But
yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Cheers for your time.
No problem. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Hey.
I guess I gotta get a new laptop.
No way. So there he was, Benny Horowitz. Great to hear from him, and I don't know, get some stuff I never heard before. I'd never really heard other members of the band talk about Brian and the stress and the weight that's put on him for being a front person of such a prolific band like that Gaslight Anthem. Great to hear how Benny got his workshop numb thumbs. Is that a phrase? Numb thumbs? It is now. Yeah, brilliant. Love speaking to Benny. What a great guy. He does a podcast himself called Going Off Track. Go and listen to that. Good stuff. All right, look, cheers for listening. I'll be back next week with an episode with Health, which I'm pretty excited about. Also got E from the Eels coming up. It's going to be a great festive time. Make sure you subscribe and get those delivered as soon as those come out, straight to your phone. And I'll see you then. Nice one.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.